All right, the next easiest topic to cover, since I just covered multiplication, is division. I took off my sweatshirt that I had been wearing for the multiplication video because I realized I looked a little bit too mommy-ish, I guess. I just put down my 10-month-old and I look like a slob. Okay, so I'm in a normal shirt. Hopefully I look more professional. All right, so with division, again, the signs, teach them all the signs from the get-go. Do this because it just helps them in the future. I'm going to use the Unifix cubes again for this video. Again, the kind of the bread and butter, it's great to have them to use for any of the concepts you're teaching. So, traditional sign, 4 divided by 2, decide to use those numbers again, nice and simple. 4 divided by 2, this is just taking 4 items and putting them, you can either say groups into groups of 2, or you can say sharing them with 2 or whatever. It really doesn't matter whether they take the 4 and put them into groups of 2, for instance, like taking 4 and literally making this is a group of 2, this is a group of 2, or saying I'm taking 4 and putting them into 2 groups. It's not like multiplication in that you should probably read it across. You do need to start here so they know how many they're starting with, but whether you put groups of 2 or 2 groups, it's going to get the same thing, okay? And it really, I don't think is as important. So 4 divided by 2, traditional sign, taking 4 and putting them into groups of 2 or 2 groups, sharing them between 2 groups. Then this, you'll see a lot, especially when you get into the bigger numbers. This also means 4 divided by 2 when they see this, and the answer, of course, goes up here instead of going straight across over here like it would. So 4 divided by 2 equals 2. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. We'd put the 2 up here. But it's good for them to start learning this because once they get into even the bigger numbers, let's say it's 24 divided by 2. Of course, the bigger number should be here, unless you're going to end up with a fraction or something. But 24 divided by 2, and then putting the answer up here. Just show them that from the get-go. Get them used to using that and writing with it. And then, of course, lastly is what looks like a fraction. This line, if you have a number over another number, it still means divided by. This is going to be important both when you're using fractions and again when you're using algebra. If you can teach them like this from the get-go, that this just means 4 divided by 2, I think it'll help the understanding with future concepts better. So when they see this and they say, oh, 4 divided by 2, let's say you get to fractions, this is 4 wholes divided by 2. They can say, oh, instead of seeing that and freaking out like, what do I do? Because they're in the context of fractions, they can see this and say, oh, this just means 4 divided by 2. This is an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator, but they already know what to do with it. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So even though it's an improper fraction, they'll say, oh, this is just 2 wholes. And then, of course, when they get a fraction like 5 over 2 or 5 divided by 2, they can say, oh, well, 5 can't be put into groups of 2 evenly. I'll have a remainder, or I can say 2 wholes and 1 over 2 left over, or 1/2. So 2.5 would be your 5 over 2 answer. It just helps them to kind of segue into some of the other concepts easier. Again, when you get to algebra, and let's say this is 4x plus 2 over 2, they can say, okay, that just means 4x plus 2 over here is going to be divided by this 2 down here. And they might look at it less like a fraction, more like a division problem, which is really how they should be looking at it. So again, teach it like this even from the get-go. I think it'll go a long way with your kids. So when you're using Unifix cubes, I would have them just write out the problems. Start with like a day or 2 of just playing with the Unifix cubes and then have them write out the problems as they're doing it so they get used to writing them. The more ways that using different materials and writing it different ways and saying it different ways, the more connections you can make in their brain, the faster it'll be for them to pick up and the more they'll be able to understand it and really comprehend it, making more connections in the brain. Science says that. So brain people that are much smarter than I am. So let's say we had 4 divided by 2, starting with the big numbers. Hey, you need to start with 4. So they started with 4 red ones. And you're saying divided by 2. Again, I don't care if they do groups of 2 or 2 groups. It's kind of hard when 4 divided by 2 is the same number. So let's do 8 divided by 2. there's 8. 8 divided by 2, they start with 8 blocks. They count out the 8, can be the same color, can be different colors, whatever your kids choose. And let's say it's 8 divided by 2. So I can either do groups of 2, and the answer is 4 because I had 4 groups, or I can do 8 divided by 2, and I could do 2 groups, and I can share. Sometimes it's easier for kids to share because when you can put it in the context of sharing, you're like, oh, he gets one, I get one. He gets one, I get one. And then you could even take this to your snack time and use things like chocolate chips and say, okay, I'm giving you 32 chocolate chips. Here's the problem. 32 chocolate chips between you and your sister. 32 divided by 2 is going to be what number? And they can count it out. Or if there's 4 of them, even better, because 32 divided by 4 is an actual multiplication and division fact they'll have to know. 32 divided by 4, they'll each get 8 chocolate chips. But they're still doing math when they're doing snacks. So that would be cool. Sometimes the sharing idea is easier to do with that. So again, have them play. And even as they're doing this, have them, once they get to division, because usually they start with multiplication, then move to division and curriculums, have them then do all the facts for the fact family. There's fact families for like the addition and subtraction families, and then there's the multiplication division fact family. So I'm talking about the multiplication and division fact family. It just means that using the same numbers, you create 4 problems, 2 multiplication, 2 division problems. So this would be, this is 2 groups of 4, so it'd be 2 times 4 is 8. Or I can say 8 divided by, let's do 2 like this, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Or I can say 8 divided by 4 is 2. Or I can say, let me see what I do, 2, I think, there we go, let's do this. Or 8 or I can say 4 times 2 is 8, because I have 4 groups of 2. So again, you have 2 times 4, 4 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So have them show it, all 4 of those, and have them write down so they understand the fact family. Oh, I'm using the same 3 numerals and making 4 different problems from it, but they all are connected using the same things. And that way they can kind of get the relationship between multiplication and division in those numbers and be able to interchange them really easy. I know that 20 divided by 4 is 5 because I know that 5 times 4 is 20, and they get all that in their brain. So again, use your everyday items. You can use buttons. You don't have to use the Unifix cubes. I just like to have them because they connect, and that's really easy. And sometimes kids, they'll take them forever, but let them play. Let them have fun. And they can do their multiplication and division facts, connecting them or whatever. They're kind of like Legos. Use Legos. Legos would be a great thing for your boys or girls if they're into it to do their multiplication and division facts with. Use Cheerios, use chocolate chips, do their snack time, do their supper time, have them use their peas and carrots. Anything where they're just every day practicing their multiplication facts and really getting to understand, and their division facts, and getting them to understand all of how it works and why it works. And I think when after they've practiced for a while and they have full understanding of this, then they'll be ready to memorize them. Because it is good to memorize your multiplication facts because they already understand what it means at that point, but they just need to get faster at it. And so the best way to do that is just memorize, because then it's just in their head. They're just going. They're going. And that's really important for when they get to the long division and they have this huge problem to do. So have them memorize after they've played for a while. And that'll be good. All right, thanks.